as we work from home and we've been sheltering in place in some places for over a month now, you can imagine that our behaviors and our operating patterns and the way that we've been connecting and working with each other has already changed. And I'm really interested in this concept of binding to these kinds of behaviors. And as we think about coming back into the office and making changes now to prepare the office for when we initially start to come back, whatever that might look like, what of these behaviors, what of these, you know, ways of connecting and things like that, do you think we're going to have to carry over and plan for as we return to the office?
I think that's a super interesting question, and I don't know that people have thought about it because I think behavioral binding is not necessarily a new concept, but it kind of is in the workplace. So um, I think there's going to be certain technologies. I think the video conferencing is a really good one. Everyone is videoing today, and I think people are getting what they need out of it. And so I think relative to connectivity, relative to business risk management, relative to where you're making capital investments, I think that's going to be one that's going to continue. The likelihood of having large meetings with a lot of people, particularly senior executives, I think is really not going to be something where a lot of organizations are going to want to risk that just from a business perspective. I think also some of the binding behaviors that you might see is some communication protocols. I think different organizations use different unified communication tools. And one of the things that I think organizations are seeing is when they don't have protocols around some of those, that decision making, like what do you prioritize and what do you respond to first if you have an email or you have a text or you have a IM or whatever. I think those are going to be things too where you're going to start to see organizations kind of step into that space because I think people are going to continue to use that, right? You're going to choose to communicate and engage in a physically distant way as opposed to maybe jumping up and walking around the corner and having a conversation with someone. I think you're going to continue to use those tools even when you come back into the office, at least initially. It is human nature to preserve yourself, right? It's self-preservation. And so that's going to mean different things for different people. And so as organizations and tenants plan for people to come back, I think video conferencing is going to be a big one. Communication tools and the protocols around, what do you use? How do you get the groups together? Those things are going to be really important. And I think, just in general, creating space, whether that's physical or virtual, for people to feel comfortable about that engagement is going to be really important.